The Galactic Academy of Nova Prime floated like a silver jewel among the stars. It was a place where young minds from hundreds of alien worlds came to learn, train, and prepare for their future in the great galaxy. Students of all colors, shapes, and origins filled its wide halls, some with wings, others with glowing eyes or shimmering scales. Among them walked a lone human. His name was Eli Ward. Eli was quiet, polite, and always on time. He wore the same gray uniform as everyone else, though it looked a bit worn at the edges. Compared to the tall, radiant alien students, he seemed small and plain. His dark hair and brown eyes didn't glow or change color. He didn't have a tail, or telepathic powers, or armored skin. He was simply human, and that was enough reason for many to laugh. One voice stood out among the laughter, Taryn Velra, a proud alien girl from a noble family on the planet Velra Prime. She was beautiful in a strange, otherworldly way. Tall, with smooth silver-blue skin, 4 bright eyes, and hair that shone like molten glass. Her people were known for their intelligence and elegance. Taryn often mocked Eli during class. "Careful, human," she said one day as they practiced zero-gravity movement. "You might fall up again. Or is that how your people travel? Bouncing around like lost asteroids?" The other students laughed. Eli only smiled and tried again. In another class, when Eli's hands trembled during a lesson on energy field manipulation, Taryn leaned close and whispered, "Maybe your kind still uses fire to cook food, Such ancient creatures." Eli didn't answer. He only nodded, adjusted his stance, and focused on the glowing panel in front of him. To Taryn, he was just a curiosity. A weak, primitive creature allowed into the academy only as part of the human exchange program. She often wondered why the council wasted resources teaching him. But Eli never complained. He listened carefully, took notes, and worked late every night. When others rested, he stayed in the simulator rooms, trying again and again. His results were average, but his determination was endless. One morning, the academy's halls buzzed with excitement. A training simulation had been announced, a full combat rescue test inside the gravity chambers. It was meant to test teamwork and problem-solving under pressure. Eli was placed in Team Delta, along with Taryn and 3 others. When the simulation began, the group found themselves in a virtual landscape, a collapsing space station with alarms blaring and walls shaking. The mission was to stabilize the power core and rescue the civilians. Taryn immediately took charge. "Follow my commands," she said confidently. "We'll do this by the book." Eli nodded. "Understood." At first, everything went smoothly, but then the simulation glitched. A sudden system malfunction caused the virtual gravity to spiral out of control. Panels exploded in sparks. The safety field that protected them failed. The training suddenly became dangerous. Real metal shards floated in the air, and the air pressure began to drop. Students panicked. Some shouted to end the test, but the command system wasn't responding. "Everyone stay calm." Taryn tried to shout, but fear cracked her voice. Eli's eyes darted around the room. He saw the emergency control panel half crushed under debris. The others hesitated. It looked impossible to reach. But Eli didn't think twice. He grabbed a length of cable, hooked it around his waist, and pushed off toward the panel. "Human, you'll be crushed," Taryn yelled. Eli ignored her. He reached the panel, pulling himself through floating metal pieces. His hand bled from a sharp edge, but he didn't stop. Using an old-fashioned trick, something his grandfather had taught him, he found a manual override switch behind the casing. Most students didn't even know what that was. Their worlds used only automated systems. He pulled the lever down. A loud hiss filled the chamber. Gravity stabilized and the environment returned to normal. When the simulation ended, the lights came back on. The instructors rushed in. Everyone was safe. Taryn stood frozen, still catching her breath. Eli floated nearby, covered in dust and small cuts, but smiling faintly. "System's stable now," he said softly. "I think it's over." For the first time, Taryn didn't have a joke. She stared at him in silence. Later that day, Taryn sat alone in the cafeteria, staring at her meal. Her friends talked excitedly about the malfunction, saying the primitive human got lucky. But Taryn wasn't so sure. She replayed the moment in her head, the calm in his eyes, the quickness of his actions, the way he had ignored the danger to help others. It wasn't luck. It was something else, something she didn't understand. When Eli entered the cafeteria carrying his tray of simple food, bread, soup, and water, she found herself watching him again. He didn't sit with anyone. He just ate quietly, reading from a small datapad. Maybe he's not so simple after all, she murmured. That night, while studying her notes, Taryn's thoughts kept drifting back to the human boy. Why had he risked his life for people who mocked him? Why didn't he use fear or pride like others did? Out of curiosity, she opened the Academy database and searched for information about Earth. Most entries were short and outdated. The planet was described as Class 3 origin world, unstable ecosystem, limited technology, frequent conflict. But there was also a note that caught her attention. Humans display unusual psychological resilience and survival instinct. Despite primitive conditions, they adapt rapidly to any environment. Taryn frowned. Resilience. Adaptability. She leaned back in her chair. Maybe she had judged him too soon. Maybe humans weren't weak, just different. Outside her window, the stars of the galaxy shimmered. Somewhere among them was the blue planet called Earth, small, fragile, and yet still alive. And somewhere in the academy below, a quiet human named Eli Ward was proving that sometimes the smallest worlds create the strongest hearts. The next morning, Taryn Velra woke with a restless feeling she couldn't shake. Since the training simulation, her thoughts kept returning to Eli Ward. The human boy she had mocked so freely now seemed different, stronger, braver, smarter than she had believed. At breakfast in the academy's dining hall, she watched him quietly from a distance. Eli ate slowly, reading from his datapad, occasionally pausing to write notes in a small notebook. Unlike most students, he did not boast about his success in the simulation, nor did he brag to the instructors. He simply worked. Taryn felt a strange mixture of curiosity and confusion. She wanted to understand him, but she did not know where to begin. Later that day, she found herself wandering through the Academy's xenobiology library. Rows upon rows of data crystals glowed softly, containing records of every species in the galaxy. Taryn had always studied the Velra and other advanced species, but she had never spent much time learning about humans. She pulled up a holographic display of Earth. The planet was small, covered mostly in blue oceans and green land masses. Taryn read the history summaries. Humans had survived countless wars, natural disasters, and famine. Entire civilizations had risen and fallen, yet they always rebuilt. Her eyes widened as she continued reading. Humans had developed extraordinary problem-solving skills, adaptability, and perseverance. Qualities most alien species valued but rarely possessed. This is why he is so different, Taryn whispered. He is built to survive. Her curiosity grew into something more deliberate. Over the next week, she began observing Eli closely, watching how he moved through classes, how he interacted with equipment, and how he solved problems. She noticed that when others panicked, he stayed calm. When complex systems failed, he looked for simple solutions that actually worked. He never gave up, even when instructions were confusing or technology malfunctioned. One evening, Taryn approached him after class. "Eli," she said, trying to sound casual, "can I ask you something?" Eli looked up, surprised but calm. "Of course. Your people," she began carefully. "How do you survive in such difficult conditions? Your species, Earth. It seems weak. Yet somehow you adapt. You seem strong." Eli smiled faintly. "We've learned that it's not about being perfect or fast or smart. It's about keeping going no matter what. When things fail, we find another way. When we fall, we get up. That's how humans survive." Taryn studied him, intrigued. "Even in space? Far from your homeworld?" "Especially in space," Eli said. "We don't have the luxury of waiting for help. We either figure it out ourselves or we fail. And giving up is not an option." Taryn felt a strange admiration growing inside her. For the first time, she saw humans not as weak or primitive, but as resilient, resourceful, and determined. Over the next few days, Taryn continued her research. She accessed genetic records comparing humans to other species. The data shocked her. Humans, despite appearing physically weak, possessed unique adaptive markers in their DNA. A kind of natural resilience that allowed their bodies to adjust quickly under stress, heal faster than expected, and even develop unexpected skills in survival situations. Taryn approached Eli again, this time with more direct questions. "Eli, I found something," she said quietly. "Your DNA, it's unlike anything we've seen here. How How did you develop these traits? Eli looked thoughtful. I didn't, not exactly. My ancestors survived harsh worlds. My people were forced to adapt every generation. Extreme climates, scarce resources, attacks from wild creatures. We learned to survive anything. That's in our blood, I guess. Taryn's eyes widened. So, everything I thought about humans was wrong. You are stronger than most of us realize. Eli shrugged, smiling. Strength isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it comes from never giving up. For Taryn, this revelation was profound. The girl who had once laughed at him now felt a deep respect and curiosity. She wanted to know more, not just about humans, but about this particular human. That night, she couldn't sleep. She floated to the observation deck, staring at the stars, thinking about Earth, about survival, about courage. She realized something she hadn't expected. She wanted to be near Eli, to understand him better, to learn from him. The next day, Taryn joined Eli in the simulation lab. She watched him manipulate old Earth-style tools, improvising repairs to equipment that should have required advanced alien technology. He moved with patience and precision, and Taryn was impressed by his calm problem-solving under pressure. You really think like a human, she said finally, a smile breaking across her face. Eli looked up. I do, but it's not about thinking like a human. It's about learning how to survive no matter who you are or where you come from. Taryn nodded slowly. She realized that humans had something alien species often lacked: tenacity, flexibility, and a refusal to surrender. She had always believed that physical strength and advanced technology were the ultimate markers of power. Now she knew there was another kind, and a quiet, enduring strength that could outmatch almost anything. The following week, the Academy announced a special field test. Students would be sent to an abandoned space station to practice survival skills. The instructors warned that the test would be extremely difficult. Many students groaned, but Eli looked calm. Taryn found herself watching him closely again. He organized his equipment carefully, double-checked every system, and even shared tips with his team. Unlike the other students, he did not panic when warnings flashed across the control panel. During the test, a sudden solar flare caused part of the station to lose power. Many students froze, unsure of what to do. Taryn hesitated, panic rising, but Eli remained steady. Stay calm, he said. We can reroute the power manually. Follow me. He led them through the station, improvising repairs with simple tools. Systems that should have required advanced alien technology came back online, because Eli found a basic solution that worked. Taryn followed him, amazed at his calm determination. By the time the flare ended, their team had completed the mission successfully. Taryn looked at Eli in awe. She had mocked him once, thought him weak, and now she could not deny the truth. He was remarkable. That night, Taryn floated alone in her quarters, thinking. She realized that everything she had believed about humans, about strength, intelligence, and survival, had been completely wrong. And more than that, she realized that her feelings toward Eli were changing. She no longer saw him as a joke, a curiosity, or something to mock. She saw him as someone extraordinary, someone whose quiet courage and resilience could teach her more than any book or simulation ever could. The Galactic Academy of Nova Prime had never faced a crisis like this. A mysterious cosmic parasite had infiltrated the station's orbiting sector. It was not alive in the normal sense, yet it spread through systems like wildfire, disabling controls, shutting down life support, and threatening the station's structure. Alarms blared in every hallway. The instructors and senior cadets struggled to find a solution. Panic rippled through the student body. Most students froze. Some argued endlessly about what to do, debating strategies that relied on advanced technology no one was sure would work. The parasite was clever and fast, exploiting every weakness in the station's systems. Eli Ward, however, remained calm. He had seen worse. On Earth, his ancestors had survived storms that could destroy entire cities. They had repaired broken ships with scrap metal and led survivors through harsh frozen wastelands. The lessons of survival were in his blood. He looked at the controls, then at the panicked students. Listen, he said quietly. We don't need perfect systems. We just need to survive. We'll do it step by step. Low-tech manual methods work better than waiting for fancy machines to save us. Taryn Velra, who had once mocked him, now watched with wide eyes. She had followed him in simulations and learned about his methods, but she had never seen them in a real crisis. Now standing in the center of chaos, she felt both fear and admiration. Eli quickly organized a small team. You shut down the northern vent. You check the gravity stabilizers manually. I'll reroute power through the auxiliary conduits. His instructions were simple, precise, and practical. There was no hesitation, no grandstanding. Just action, the instructors protested. Human, this method is risky. Our protocols exist for a reason. Eli shook his head. Our protocols are failing. This will work. Trust me. Some students hesitated, but Taryn stepped forward. I trust him, she said firmly. Her voice carried more than authority, and it carried belief. Slowly, others joined them. The team moved through the station, carefully navigating corridors where panels sparked and floors shuddered. Infected systems threatened to spread further. Every second counted. Eli's hands moved quickly but steadily. He connected circuits using spare wiring, opened manual valves to vent infected areas, and rerouted auxiliary power. His human-sized hands worked among alien-sized machinery, improvising solutions that most students thought impossible. When a section of the station's outer hull began to crack under pressure, Eli assessed the damage. We need to seal it manually, he said. If we wait for automated repair drones, it will be too late. Taryn hesitated. It's dangerous. We could get trapped. Eli's eyes met hers. I've survived worse. If we do nothing, everyone dies. We have to try. With Taryn by his side, the team worked together. They sealed the hull, vented the parasite from critical areas, and restored power to essential systems. Slowly, the station stabilized. The alarms quieted and lights flickered back on. When the final system came online, Taryn could hardly believe it. Eli, the quiet human she had once mocked, had saved the entire station. After the crisis, the instructors and Galactic Council representatives arrived to investigate. They wanted to understand how a human and a small team of cadets had prevented what could have been a total disaster. Taryn stepped forward, speaking clearly and confidently. The human Eli Ward is not weak or primitive. His methods may seem simple, but they are effective. His heritage, his survival skills, and his quick thinking saved all of us. We should study his approach, not dismiss it. The council listened, intrigued. The other students nodded in agreement. Eli had proven that intelligence, courage, and persistence could match, and even surpass, advanced technology and genetic perfection. Eli stood quietly, letting Taryn speak. He did not boast. He did not demand recognition. He simply accepted the gratitude of those he had helped. In the days that followed, the academy changed. Students from all species began to observe humans differently. They asked questions about Earth, about survival strategies, and about the human way of thinking. Humans became a subject of study not because they were weak, but because they were strong in ways most species had never considered. Taryn, once Eli's fiercest critic, became his closest ally. She shadowed him in simulations, learning not just human techniques but human ways of thinking. She realized that what she had once considered flaws, stubbornness, humility, and emotional intensity, were actually strengths. One evening, as they floated in the Academy's observation deck, watching the stars twinkle in the infinite darkness, Taryn spoke softly. You were right, she said. Strength isn't always about power or perfection. Sometimes it's about never giving up, and never underestimating what others can do. Eli smiled faintly. It's also about helping others, even when no one believes in you. That's what humans do. That's what anyone should do, I think. Taryn nodded, feeling a deep respect for him. I mocked you, underestimated you. I was wrong. You've shown me a new kind of strength. Eli shrugged modestly. It's not about me. It's about everyone who keeps trying, no matter the odds. And in that quiet moment, the two of them looked at the stars, thinking about Earth, about the galaxy, and about the future. Taryn knew that humans, once thought primitive, had proven themselves not just to the galaxy, but to her. Months later, when new students arrived at the academy, Taryn would tell them stories of Eli Ward, the human who had saved the station. She told them how courage, persistence, and ingenuity could change outcomes where even advanced technology failed. Eli never sought fame. He never demanded recognition, but his actions inspired every student who heard his story. Humans were no longer seen as weak or primitive. They were seen as a species capable of facing impossible odds and surviving. And Taryn Velra, once the girl who mocked him, had become the first to say aloud what everyone else thought quietly. Humans are extraordinary. The stars shone on the academy, bright and endless. Among them, a quiet human boy and a proud alien girl looked forward to the challenges ahead, not as mocker and mocked, but as allies, friends, and believers in the strength of the human spirit. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes, the simplest origins hide the strongest hearts.